Hey gang, I just thought I'd put this video together for both my blog and YouTube to kind of explain more of my situation. My channel's pretty new, my blog's pretty old, but I haven't done much with the blog, so they're kind of in the same position, not a lot of current data on it. So this video is to explain, explain who I am. I'm not going to edit that out because that's just the way I talk. I trip over my lips quite a bit. But this video is to explain more about who I am and what the channel's about. Now the blog is called Homesteading on a Dime. That's not the same name as the YouTube channel. Maybe I should change them, but I really kind of like both names, and I really don't want to exclude one. So I think I'm going to keep them the same for now. If you're on YouTube and you've been to my channel header thingy-majiggy, you've seen the icon for my blog, and you can just click on that. The videos are going to be pretty much the same, although there's a lot of written stories on the blog from years ago. It's not so much about the process of homesteading, it's just stories while I'm homesteading kind of thing. So it's more of an entertainment value as opposed to an instructional or motivational kind of thing. I was just having fun with it. I got tired of writing stuff and took a long break and figured it's better if I just speak to you. So that's what I'm doing. I live off the road system and off the grid here in Alaska, and it's totally and completely changed my life in ways that just looking at it from a distance or a future thing you might want to try to do, you're just not gonna get it, you know. And it's going to be different for everybody, but it's so much different than what I expected it to be. At first, it was I want to say more of a challenge than I thought it would be getting started. You know, you have this picture in your mind's eye about how things are going to go, and it never goes that way. But don't sweat it. It'll be okay. Just stick to your guns, and you'll be fine. You just got to feel your way through it. I don't think you can read a book or watch a video and get any real information out of it other than the basics, because it's going to be so much different for you than for me and the other guy over there. You're all going to have your own little hoops you got to jump through, and everything's going to be just a little bit different for you than it is for the other guy. There are key elements that you want to take into account. They're kind of like the Bible. They're kind of like the big threads that you got to hold on to. Those things never change. They're always a constant, and it's been the same way from when people using dog sleds up here to now that we're using snowmobiles. But those certain fundamentals are the same. But you're going to find that this is your own little path and your own little journey. Regardless of if you're doing this in Alaska or the Rocky Mountains or really anywhere, the fundamentals will never really change. Now my blog is called Homesteading on a Dime. I thought that was the perfect name for it because I came up here with almost no resources, and after 13 years I've still got most of it. You know, I haven't lost too much ground. I'm just joking, of course, but I had to do it on a shoestring, and I'm still on a shoestring. It's probably a bit thicker, better quality shoestring than it was when I first got up here, but it's still a shoestring. The old lifestyle doesn't fit. It doesn't work if you're going to really be doing this. I'm not talking about the people who have coming up here or anywhere and living off grid, but they're still doing the 9 to 5, so they're getting their pickup truck and they go into town and work and come home and do the gardening and stuff like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being remote enough to where commuting isn't an option. It's not even possible, really. You wouldn't be able to make any money doing it, even if you wanted to go through it. So what you do is, like most Alaskans or people who live in a very remote setting, rural setting, you work seasonally. Fortunately, that's what the employment situation in Alaska is. It's mostly seasonal, and that works out pretty good because I can focus on work for a few short months, and then I can get back to my life, rather than living in two worlds all the time. It doesn't work. I've seen people try to do that. Town, for some reason, always seems to win, regardless of what you want or you think you want. If you keep too much of a foot in town, you'll never truly break from it. And I've just seen it over and over and over again. So staying focused on what you really truly want is really important, and don't get sidetracked. Like I'm getting sidetracked right now because we're supposed to be talking about homesteading on a dime, but I guess it kind of fits, because I do work seasonally. I'm not really a consumer. I'm a very strategic purchaser of items. I prioritize things. Certain things just need to be done, and you can't just say, well, I really want that big screen TV for the cabin. Yeah, you can get satellite up here. When you need chainsaws instead, that's just not even an option, unless of course you find one at a garage sale for $10 or something like that. We're not talking about finding cheap stuff. That's a different part, probably, of a different video. We're talking about prioritizing your funds to make sure that you can get through that winter, because that's what it's all about for me, is getting through winter. Everything I do in the summer is so I can get through winter. So, for example, last winter I managed to, all of my car batteries, I use deep cycle batteries for my cabin, either 12 volt or through a 110 inverter. All of my batteries gave out. Two of my battery chargers gave out. Both my chainsaws gave out, and while I have a backup for the chainsaws in terms of crosscut saws and axes and stuff like that, I can still cut firewood. I really like my chainsaws, and they have to be replaced. So you take care of those major needs first, and then you start working on restocking your food supplies and clothing and stuff like that, because you're going to go through a lot of gear. I go through, a pair of winter boots might last me a couple seasons because I'm always in them. I'm not running from the house to the car, to go to work or to the store, something like that, and back. I'm in them cotton pickers all day long, all winter long. So you have to kind of just develop your own system of saying, this is what I need, and this is what has to be replaced, and it's just like a funnel. Everything sorts itself out. The hardest part, I think, is the stress. I don't have a lot of stress in my life, but that is one of the stresses, and it manifests itself. If you can see this, you're all staring at this thing on my lip, and it's really kind of embarrassing, so I'll just do this. I get the equivalent of a cold sore when I come into town. My lip will break out when I first get into town. It's probably a combination of working out in the sun and or just thinking like, okay, I got to get out of debt, because even though I don't have debts per se, I do have personal debts I have to pay for boat travel, and I have some small personal debts and stuff like that, and they gnaw at me all the time, and it really takes me a while to remember that it's going to be okay. Once you get used to the lifestyle of living, I don't want to say cheaply, but on a basic level, where you're not just out being the normal consumer, where you're watching TV at 3 in the morning and you pick up the phone and get the credit card out and you're buying some little $24.95 whoop-de-doo that you really don't need, kind of thing. You just get settled into the lifestyle, and it becomes easier, or more natural, I should say. Maybe more natural is a better word. And you really don't worry and lust after all of these things that you see advertised and stuff like that, because you really don't need those things. I've learned how to get by on very, very little cash. I probably live on a lot less than you probably think somebody probably could. I seem to average between $5,500 and $6,000 a year, working the almost about 4 months. It's about 120 days of total work season, and maybe 75 to 80% is actual work days. So it's closer to 3 months of actual work time. maybe less, depends on the weather and what kind of jobs you can line up. Uh, but once you work yourself in the situation where you don't have the credit card payments and you don't have the car loan and you don't got to pay the cable bill and all this other stuff, you'll find that you can to just to the living part. You know, you don't have the $2,000 a month house payment anymore because you've got your little cabin that you built with your own two hands, and it's all sweat equity, and you went to the lumber yard and bought the lumber or whatever, and there's no mortgage payment on it. You know, maybe you've got a land payment, maybe not, depends on how you work it. But what I'm saying, I guess, is you have to free yourself up from all of this. You can get it now, pay for it later kind of stuff, because that just doesn't work with this type of lifestyle. You'll always have that one foot in town, and that'll be the bigger foot if you try to do it that way, and you'll fail. It's just, I've seen it too many times, and don't set yourself up to fail. You know, as I look back on the last 11 years plus of actually being on my homestead, what I call full time, leaving just to work, you know, and make money so that it can keep going, and that I can stay up there. I've had some really lean years. My worst year, I made about $3,500 total for the year, and that was including the permanent fund, which was about $800 that year. There are reasons for that, a lot of them up here. And you could say, well, it was a really rough year, but I got through it just fine. I don't remember ever saying like, my God, how am I going to get through this year? I don't have any memories like that of that year. In fact, if I look back at it and say, you know, that's the year of the break-in bear. If you go onto my blog and read that story about the break-in bear, that happened that year. And that was actually one of my best years. I had nothing. Me and the dogs, we had nothing, you know. We could afford food and gas. That was about it. We didn't have a snowmobile then, which actually probably helped because I didn't have to buy gas and oil for that. But looking back on it, you know, the berry season and canning berries and hunting the bear and canning the bear at the cabin. I look back at that, and man, that was one of the best years. That was probably the best year I had here. And I remember the lean years, but I don't remember them in the terms of saying, oh my God, that can't ever happen again. I look back at it as a victory because it was an accomplishment in a totally different way. You know, it was a personal achievements and accomplishing things personally as opposed to financially or monetarily. You know, I can't say like, yeah, I built this great big cabin kind of thing. That didn't happen. But a lot of things happened to me personally that will stay with me forever. Some of the best memories I have actually were from the leanest years. Now, would I want to personally go back to that? Well, no. It's nice to have that cushion and that extra stuff. I didn't have. I had one chainsaw. That was the year that broke down too, if I remember correctly. You're gonna have to read my blog and tell me. I had a year where my one and only chainsaw broke down just before a cold front came through, and I was carrying my firewood in over my shoulder. Didn't have a snowmobile. I didn't have a sled to pull it in, so I was just going out on snowshoes and with this cross-cut saw and axe. It took me almost a month, 3 weeks or better, before I could get a replacement chain. And all that happened was the chain broke on it. I didn't have a spare chain. That's why you always have to do the prepper thing and always have more, you know, kind of thing. But I went out there and it was 25, 30 below at night, and maybe in the single digits below during the day. And I'd go out every morning. I'd make biscuits for breakfast, and I'd go out and I'd haul in firewood over my shoulder, enough to get by 3 or 4 days, you know. But I'd go out every second day, so I was building up a little bit, and it was a lot of work. But man, I tell you what, that's a good memory, not a bad memory, and it makes you stronger because you know what? I did it before, and if I had to, I can do it again. So that's a skill set I have, if not, I mean, I know there's no great skill set in chopping down a tree, but psychologically, you go, well, you know what? I know my family was probably panicked. You know, I learned to not tell them a lot about what goes on up here. But uh, it, in hindsight, of course, it was grueling at the time. It was a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Even with a small cabin, you're always going out, you're always hauling and doing stuff, and the days were so short. I'd be exhausted by the time I got done at the end of the day. I just wanted to eat dinner and go to bed. But it made me stronger. It made me more confident, and say, you know what? If that happens again, it's not that big of a deal. You know, it's really not. So don't let not having a lot of money stop you. It's more important that you get out of debt. That's that's really the key right there. Get out of debt so you don't always have that thing hanging over your head every month, all of those bills to pay and stuff like that. You get rid of those, and it'd be amazed at how much your life opens up. You know, even if you wanted to keep your job and if you got rid of the bills, you'd be rich. If you wanted to be rich, just get rid of all the dang payments. You know, this buy now, pay later thing, man, that is the biggest money making scam on the planet. You're paying so much more for your stuff by doing it that way. And I know you know that, but you do it